They have not succeeded and then resorted back to banning it every single time. But there is nowhere to hide in a best of 5. Everything is laid out. G2 have got to play Oregon, a map we haven't seen them go to yet either. These first 2 maps could be bloody is the best way to look at it. And speaking of bloody, let's not forget G2 in their game yesterday on this map absolutely dominated on the attack. Although BDS is starting on defense, and many at home will be saying, oh, to me, that screams safety. It screams comfort. I would love to defend Villa here against G2. I don't know if you want to.
No, after what we saw yesterday, Virtus.pro, I am sure those guys will be sat there saying, you don't want to play against G2 on the attack of Villa. They went 6-0 in that first half, and that is something that BDS, I am sure, will have been watching overnight and preparing for because, let's be honest, they had to. Now, I don't really mind who wins this one, Des. Obviously, as always, we like to remain slap bang on the fence in the middle, nice and neutral. All I want to see is plenty of maps, plenty of rounds, maybe an overtime here and there. I want an absolute brawl for this one.
We get a bit of a pass because we're from the UK, and in the UK, we love underdog stories. And, you know, Fluky may have been a bit crazy and out there. I was going to say it's only fair if you have a dog in the race to say you like an underdog story. We do like underdog stories. So either teams are balanced and you say, look, we're on the fence. It could go either way. Or if it's an underdog story, which it no doubt is here for BDS, you can sit there and go, well, we love one of those in the UK. However, it is against G2. It is against a team that has looked formidable so far, all competition long. We'll see if today's the day that they claim themselves that top spot once more. And as I mentioned on Twitter earlier on, maybe it becomes that legacy from SI 2019. Back when, in 2018, they were one of the most dominant, if not the most dominant teams on the planet. We'll see if that can be reborn today. Kicking things off in Aviator Games down to the south, one of the go-to standard sites. Nothing too crazy coming out of the operator bands worth mentioning, although I do look towards that Habana ban and give a slight tip of the hat. That one definitely I don't want to say an unconventional ban. I'd say it's quite normal in maps like this for to have a hard breach ban or two come out. But here, you know exactly why they've gone for it. With Shaiko being a go-to Hibana main, he's going to have to change things up when they go onto the attack.
Target ban, no question at all, but also very useful operator here on Villa, particularly on this site that you're looking at. People love to put Hibana on that south study door and just fire those X-Kairos pellets right across study onto that wall. Thank you very much, easy. And just get those holes opened up without any major risk coming into the hard breacher. Now, I think it looks like we might. There's a little call for a rehost there, Des. We want everybody at tip-top form here. Kanto's mic is not working at the minute, so we're just going to get that squared away. You get to come back and have a look at Des and I's jackets for another minute or two. I'm sure that'll be a...
Mate,
is it a... I'm sure it's a treat.
I'm very jealous.
I mean, look at this bad boy. Right. You may have seen the picture, you may not, but if I lift that up, you can see a little bit better what's going on there. Got a little heron there, Des. Can you see
Mate,
that?
we love our birdie shirts, don't we? I got my black birdie shirt, you got your white and black jacket. We love it. Absolutely love it.
All about it. But what we also love is this matchup, Des. It's going to be huge. It's absolutely mouth-watering. I bounced out of bed this morning, woke up without an alarm, absolutely no problem whatsoever because I was just so excited for this matchup. It's a historic rivalry. It's getting that way. It's becoming the new sort of Penta EG, G2 Empire. It's the latest evolution. It always seems to be this roster of G2 that ends up in these epic rivalries. And right now, it does seem to be really building. But G2, they have got bragging rights at the minute. They have got the majority of wins. And especially when you look at the best of threes, even if we include the major that we've seen so far, they are now 4-1 when it comes to best of 3 or above against BDS. So BDS have got a real trend to book here, but G2, I love what I'm seeing from them, Des. Obviously, the roster changed after SI 2020. They had a little bit of a struggle. Fabian chose to remove himself and said that he just didn't feel that, you know, he was contributing as part of that roster anymore, and he decided to take himself away from it, and they reformed, they regrouped, they got a couple of new faces in. We had Virtue, we had Citizen both coming in, and they really seem to have cemented themselves now. And initially we thought we were going to see this huge fragging team, and whilst that capability is absolutely there, it certainly seems they're building more of a flex team than anything.
I think this is the most important thing, and I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday. Virtue and Renshiro are the two players in this game that aren't the ones who normally command high praise. They aren't the players that we normally speak about at any level of competition, but across this event, they have consistently been the best go-to players. Virtue ahead of the game against Virtus.pro yesterday. Mentioned that in the best of 3 the previous day against BDS, as well as the final game of EUL, Virtue was #1 in rating. That was a massive storyline going into that game, that he was coming in as the strongest player despite playing on these more supportive operators. So I like how we're seeing new names shine. I like how we're starting to see G2 grow more of an identity beyond. We're a team of fraggers that don't really play support. Remember the jokes at the start? Who's carrying the diffuser? Turns out there's multiple members that can do it, whether it's Pengu on the Twitch, whether it's Virtue playing on the Thermite, it doesn't matter. They have a lot of flexibility in this roster, and it's why we're seeing them come out so strong.
It certainly is. Like you say, strength in depth is really becoming the key for these Siege rosters. I think gone are the days where you can have 1 or 2 star players and then just sort of coast your way through these tournaments. The quality and the bar is just going up stage after stage, season after season, major after major. And right now, it is all about that strength in depth. And as you say, Des, perfectly picked out. Virtue, Renshiro, they are great examples of players who maybe don't see enough of the limelight. There's an argument there for them being stars throughout this major. They have played massive parts for their respective teams, and they are certainly ones to watch out for today, alongside all those other familiar names that you've got.
To give you an idea as to why Renshiro was so big against G2 on day one, although they lost 7-2 on Theme Park, Renshiro walked away with 12 kills. The closest was then Shaiko below him on 5 kills. And speaking of Shaiko, I mentioned it a couple of times yesterday, him and Brede have been the big names throughout the main stage of the European League that everyone's been talking about. Brede being the highest rated player, Shaiko, we all know what this guy can do. He needs no introduction. But 10 and 15 for them, really not the outcome you expect to see. So today, they're the players that I'm watching especially. Renshiro, I think it's fair to assume you're going to see something of today, but it's Shaiko and Brede. Yes, Brede not necessarily playing on those more aggressive roles, but we know what he can do. We've seen it be delivered. They have got to come up big against G2.
Looks like the potential of a north side push is building here. Now, it's always an interesting one to see because I'm a big advocate for at least a little bit of pressure from the south side on Study as well. This, for me, really needs to be a split push. We've seen it too many times where teams get that north side control, but there's no real big breaches that can be opened up. You either have to extend your attack down into the south side of 90 corridor for that rotation that we can see bottom left of your screen, try and get in behind the bar to get the diffuser down. If you don't do that, you are solely limited to the single door to the northeast, as we can see just above the map table there, and that is a huge funnel. Thank you very much, Easy. It becomes very difficult to push through there because you can go one at a time, the defenders know where everybody is coming from, and you are feeding into 3 or 4 guns, and that's why I say you need that Study pressure, because it just turns the defenders' heads.
They're trying to do the same thing we saw Citizen do just the other day. They've had a real love this tournament so far for bringing Citizen on the IQ and either getting him above or below sight based on which map we're on, and of course how much soft flooring there is, and destroying gadgets before the defenders can really do much about it, to be honest. So I completely understand why Renshiro is trying to match on the downstairs, not trying to give Citizen too much room to get to work. Got to be super careful of him getting pinched out here because he has had drones swarming at his feet for the last 30 seconds and almost took a bit of a fight against Uno, I believe it was. And there we go, the first trade almost coming out. Renshiro, the one walking away, worse for wear, and Citizen is going to pick him off. And this is the big fear with this player. Yes, he's on the IQ. Yes, he's playing behind utility. But my God, is he one of the best gunners in the game, and you do not want to be facing up against him.
Absolutely not. Citizen there, just closing out that entry battle. And that is going to be a big factor for everybody at home to be watching today. Who gets those early round advantages? Who can come in there with more men when the execution comes down? And right now it is 5 versus 4 with the Valkyrie off the board. Now, I've always called a Valkyrie death as sort of half a death, really, because they've got an intimate knowledge of exactly where those cams are placed, and you know that Renshiro's making plenty of call-outs right now. We get a couple of trades coming in there. Virtue will take Shaiko down, but not without the loss of Uno, and that now leaves us 4 versus 3. Virtue is in position here to potentially get this diffuser down, but Rafal has plenty of utility left to deny this. Now, that is huge. Pengu coming in with a kill onto Brede, trading out that Citizen death, and it all goes in the direction of G2. Virtue had got himself into the position to get the diffuser down, but he didn't need to. The guns were there. The ADS is trained. They were ready, and they took those players down. G2, first successful round on the board.
I wouldn't say so much a stroke of luck for G2 as much as it was unlucky for BDS there. They had a player at the top of the south stairs, and you saw the smokes come out of the Jackal to enable Study to be contested freely without anyone trying to push him behind them. Pengu does the smart thing and goes, well, I may as well spray through the smoke. You never know who's there. Gets a kill, I believe it is, onto Bride, hanging on the other side of it. Really unlucky, but great execute coming out of G2. And although you might sit there and go, well, BDS offered nothing, let's not forget, it doesn't matter that they had the Jaeger, the Wamai, everything else to try and block grenades or utility coming at them. That was all dealt with earlier on by Citizen from below. So G2 doing the hard yards here, making sure they're clearing out everything they need to so these executes can come up without a hitch. BDS had the right idea. They were downstairs with two members trying to contest. Renshiro and Alem were down there. They just couldn't find that kill to really upset the apple cart there and cause a bit of discomfort for G2. Want to see them do it again, though? Cause a bit of trouble, get downstairs, and look to pick off members of G2 before they can execute this step-by-step game plan they've come in with.
Yeah, I think the extension is very important. As you said, Villa is a huge map, and you've really got to take advantage of that space. Get your roamers out there and make it really difficult for the attackers to feel comfortable. And that's the feeling that you got from G2 there in that last 20-30 seconds. They had surrounded the site. They were pushing in from both sides. They had plenty of angles covered, and it was extremely difficult and uncomfortable for BDS on the defense there. And G2, for their part, they just want to see more of the same. They want to get in there, win those entry battles, and force BDS into the similar positions. Now, Elems, he's going to be joining that roam game this time. Renshiro is not out on his own. He will be out there on the Valkyrie once again with the Nitro, but Elems is going to be picking up the Vigil, and he's going to be trying to make himself difficult to pin down. He's going to be using that cloaking device. There we go. We see it activated, and for anybody maybe a little bit less familiar, what that gadget does is it just removes his digital image from the drones that are buzzing around there. So basically, it makes him invisible to those mobile cameras that G2 are using for a period of time, and it just makes him difficult to pin down. And it gives that white line indicator that you can see there. That appears on the drones of the attackers. They know he's sort of present, but they don't know anywhere near exactly where he is, and it can create a lot of uncertainty on those clearances.
Some say he's not a big fan of any selfies, so you won't be seeing him on too many cameras in this round, as you just alluded to. It's about this pressure I was on about in creating up towards the north, around trying to stop G2 walking forward as freely. What I like is that they're probably fearful of the fact that he's downstairs and have said, right, forget about putting a big focus on downstairs for now. Let's get some upstairs control. Got to be careful of those C4s, though. I was just about to say, Renshiro lurking below on the balcony with what? On the balcony? On the Valkyrie, sorry, with one of those in the back pocket. That's as free a kill as you're going to find any day. That is why the downstairs control was so big for them last round. But I've got to say, BDS are doing the right thing. They're getting out in the map, and they're causing problems for G2.
Kanto is just turning into a real nitro magnet there the last couple of days. We've seen him getting hit repeatedly from the downstairs, and that's just bad luck, essentially. You know, you can't target players specifically like that with the nitros. You can target the team. You can know there's going to be an operator there, potentially. But Kanto, very unlucky to be attracting those explosives so far. And as you say, a good adaptation from BDS here in round two. Having Elems out there has just created a little bit more of a difficulty for G2 to shut down that roam game, and that's given Renshiro the space that he needed to just utilise that utility fully.
All about the timing now. 40 seconds left on the clock. We've seen the G2 are no stranger to a push in the dying seconds, and Citizen once again on the downstairs. What a monster. Another kill coming out onto one of the roamers. This time around, not Renshiro. It was Alem. He was the only one left downstairs. Few shots coming in from below. Seems through the hatches. He's being tracked out by the Jackal. Finally gets himself isolated and picked off, but it's only Citizen and Pengu left. Admittedly, the two players you would want in a situation like this. But with 15 seconds to go, that doesn't give them many options here, I'm afraid, Ace.
It certainly doesn't. We can see one pushes in. It will be Pengu taken down by Rafal, and that leaves Citizen 1 versus 3. He's trying to find a head. He's trying to find a pixel, anything he can, but he takes bullets. And right now, BDS, they shut the round down. Round 2 goes in favour of BDS. Bride cleaning things up, and that is going to be 1-1 on the scoreboard. And Des, we got a match on our hands.
Oh, we have. And this is the adaptation I was speaking about at the end of round 1. Round 1, they did go for the roam. They did try and disrupt G2 a little bit. Didn't really succeed. Didn't put enough pressure in there. Second round, stick two members to the north. Have them playing around C4s. Make G2 scared of coming downstairs to try and clear you out, lest they waste too much time or start losing operators down there. That was the right play by BDS, but now that we changed not just floors, but also areas of the map, we're up to the north side now on the downstairs in dining and kitchen. it's going to be a case of rediscovery for both teams, I feel.
Yesterday, we saw G2 attacking this site without any real vertical control, Des. So it'd be interesting to see exactly where Lems is going to play on that vigil. Is he going to push himself onto that top floor and try to make a nuisance? Or is he going to recognise from yesterday's play that G2, they don't really worry about that top floor too much? We can see that there is no sledge on the side of G2. There is no buck. There is none of those operators that you would typically associate with that vertical control. Now, Pengu may well have the secondary shotgun on the Jackal. We've got breaching charges from Kanto and from Uno, but still, it is not something that they really played for on this site, and they attacked it very well against Virtus.pro. What they did was basically just completely encircle the site and make it extremely difficult for anybody on the defense to come in or out, and they just picked up the kills as the defenders had to try and do that. Now, always interesting to see if top floor control is held by BDS, if those vertical angles are opened up by them, will they be able to take advantage of that? But right now, it doesn't look like they're too worried about that top floor.
The one thing I've leveraged criticism against G2 for throughout the season has always been drone preservation. We'd come down to the final 30 seconds of a round, they'd have none left. It would be a all or nothing push, and assuming that nothing massive had changed since you last collected that information. But there was a very famous saying, I believe Stokes once told me, and that is information is only good for 5 seconds. People can start moving, the situation can change. You need to make sure it's fresh at all times. G2 are always trying to be quick, I think, by sacrificing drones to collect information, but it can come back to bite them in the dying seconds. BDS in this round have doubled down on that approach of really attacking that weakness of G2, I think, by bringing along the Mute, the Mozzie, and the Vigil to try and cause some damage on the roam, so they won't be able to scout, they won't be able to drone them out, they won't be able to pick them off, and basically waste that time and put that clock down towards 0 again, because like you saw last round, that is where G2 really can struggle. It's
certainly a crack that has been identified by BDS. As you say, it's just how now the G2 respond to that. How do they react? Do they up their drone game? Do they up the information battle? And do they manage to take control of that? Or can BDS take full control? They've got top floor locked down with Alems at the minute. He's got a couple of strategic vertical angles opened up. He's just going to be waiting to see if he can get any opportunity up there on the top floor. Now, Kanto, he's been allowed to move through living room reasonably unhindered there. That is somewhere that Virtus.pro were holding particularly tough yesterday. Now, Alems, he puts that vertical angle to great use. Kill onto Citizen. That is the opener from the top floor down, and G2, they could start finding themselves punished for that lack of attention upstairs.
G2 are being very methodical. You saw a second ago as Kanto pushed his way through, there were 3 drones running around the area where he was to make sure no one was going to sneak up on him. Sadly, not the same coverage being afforded to what was going on upstairs. Virtue with a nice grenade kill onto Ranshiro removes the pulse, a pretty big one. As we all know, that cardiac sensor later in the round telling you where the heartbeats are of the attacking players through walls or through floors can be so impactful, especially given there are 3 C4s on the side of BDS across the Mozzie, the Mute, and the Pulse.
Virtue just working on the Maverick blowtorch there. He's going to look to open up the hard wall into sight, but he's going to be challenged here by Rafal potentially. He's on the shotgun and can do some serious damage. Now, opening that hatch, that is going to allow Alems to move into that area on the upstairs and apply pressure from there to the attackers. So that could be a real heads-up move, but it just depends whether Alems can get himself over there in time to make any sort of impact. He's making plenty of impact elsewhere in the map, taking the Zafir of Uno off the board, and right now G2's inability to deal with that top floor roamer is coming back to bite them.
Final 10 seconds here. It's all or nothing for G2 once again. Can they find the frags? Yes, they can. 2 come through, but Alems rotating back down, finds a 3rd. That's 2 on the roam and 1 on site. That clock hit 0. They had to try and stick the plan, but just not enough time to make it happen, unfortunately. Second round in a row where BDS have really forced and stretched G2 to the max with the time. G2 got to be a little bit quicker, and I think actually dealing with those roamers is the #1 thing they've got to start focusing on. Round number 1, they did it pretty well. Citizen took that opening kill. Second round, Renshiro downstairs with the Vigil. They were too afraid to push into him. This round just now could not get rid of a lens from the upstairs. Got to deal with them, quite simply. It's a very big map. I completely appreciate that, but they are absolutely terrorizing you on the roam right now.
Lem's caused them a massive headache from the top floor there, and I love to see that sort of mid-round adaptation as well coming in from BDS and the heads-up play to get that hatch open by Rafal, and it just gave Alems another option. As it was, he didn't really need it. He just started slaying elsewhere in the map, but even then, it still puts that doubt in the mind of the attackers. They know that they can't just focus their eyes in one direction, and that That is the big thing. And BDS taking advantage, as you say, of that sometimes questionable roam game from G2 there, using Vigil to full effect, keeping him off the radar, and there was just no real challenge. Now, there is a strong argument for dealing with roamers by leaving them out in the cold. It is absolutely possible to do, but you need to make sure that they are in the cold, and there, that wasn't the case. Alem's got himself snuggled down in front of that fireplace, Des, and he was just taking pickings left, right, and centre.
Raptor by that point sat down with a pipe and said, I'll just wait, guys. No big rush here. Speaking of the rush, not going to come through in this round. And when I say rush, I'm referring to those roamers getting down in the map and looking to cause some trouble. BDS looking at that lineup. I'm talking and seeing an awful lot of denial. Smoke, the Goyo, the C4s coming out, the intel once again coming out of Valkyrie. But Alem saying it's time to put the Vigil away, drop the mask for a short while, and pick up those batteries. We want to make sure that there's denial focus on the walls, denial focused on entries or areas of the map thanks to the Goyo. Everything's lining up pretty well for them. I've got to give a shout out to BDS as well. One of the players that we mentioned earlier on that had a pretty quiet start to the tournament. 5 kills so far across 3 rounds. Again, for a player that you normally see holding up on support, not a bad start at all.
You see Shako on the Jaeger there, just closing down drones, and then he's going to move himself back to site. Now, the slight concern for me here, looking at this setup immediately for Trophy Statuary from BDS, is they seem to have lost that factor that they've just benefited from so much, and that is presence elsewhere in the map. Renshiro is still out there on the Valkyrie, but other than that, we can see 4 defenders. They're sat on top of each other, Des. There could not be less map presence from BDS here if they physically tried, I don't think.
They're praying for good luck. It's all it comes down to. Oh, great statue, give us a victory in this round. A 2-1 apiece. If they take this third round, then it's definitely better than what we saw coming out of Virtus Pro against G2 yesterday. I believe it was 5 attacking rounds in the end to G2. Pretty brutal. We
can see that BDS has made a quick rotation downstairs. It's almost as if he heard me there. I think that has definitely been required. That is 2 nitros
You know
now.
why he's here.
Yeah, that's 2 nitros on the lower level, and he is looking to get a kill with one of them. I am absolutely sure. Now, Breeder, he needs to be found by G2, and this could actually be a clever rotation from him, because G2 could well have already drawn the basement at this point, and then 30 seconds into the round, Breeder moves himself down there, and without careful diligence coming in from G2 here to redrawn potentially, or to cover off those staircases, Citizen could well find himself shot in the back if he's not careful.
It's Citizen's focus once more, though, being droned in, get yourself downstairs, get below where these gadgets are and shoot them out. If they can get rid, with the help of some drone work, I imagine, no free pings, unfortunately, to make use of, if they can call out where the glow shields are, or just get rid of the bandit batteries, that is a massive step up for them. I'm also thinking, because Uno's down here, they're looking to play with those frag grenades from below, 4 of them in this round, because you've also got Virtue on the Maverick. We'll see if they can achieve anything behind that. I believe that was Renshiro or Alem with a C4, not quite sure which one threw it. Not that it matters, as Renshiro is now dead. Citizen at the 42nd mark, finding the opening kill.
G2 doing a very good job of keeping Renshiro quiet so far. We've said how much of a hero player he's been for BDS, but there goes Breeder. We said that we thought G2 did not know exactly where he was, and they did not, followed up with a nitro. That now leaves us 3 versus 3, and this round just heated up very, very quickly. Will it be out of the frying pan and into the fire for G2 though, or can they bring this one back under control? We've got it down on Virtue. Citizen moves in and does Citizen things with a headshot onto a fall. Shut down though, and now effectively 1 versus 2. Kanto, 1 HP in a dream that turns into a nightmare as BDS shut down round 4, and they now lead 3-1 on the defense here of Villa, and turns out BDS can play Villa.
Oh boy, I mean, that was Citizen finding a 3K with Shaiko only at the very end to come back. No, you forget who's known as the hero shooter in this game. It is me. Final 2 kills to drag that round back from what looked like an eventual victory coming out of G2. The fact that Citizen's giving so much freedom to run around the map, he was up the back stairs at one point, then he was running up down towards the south through Trophy, and still and still finding kills was unbelievable. A lot of time being given there, a lot of comfort being shown, but BDS delivered the goods in the closing seconds of the round. Better from G2, but still running it down to the wire in terms of timing. I've already said before, that was my worry from what I've seen in them in the regular season. starting to appear the same here against BDS.
I mean, looking at G2's progress so far in the first 4 rounds, they haven't been anywhere near getting a diffuser down, Des, apart from round 1, which was the round that they won, and effectively they just ended up going in and killing everybody. They've never really had any realistic site control beyond that. BDS have been locking this down very well, and I'm sure that this is going to potentially be coming as a bit of an early blow for G2. Obviously, we've seen BDS, as we've said, ban out Villa throughout the season, and G2, they've been reasonably consistent on this map, and they've come in here feeling confident on the attack, especially following yesterday's performance against Virtus Pro, where they went 6-0, and it's not really lining up for them at the minute. I'm sure in the back of the mind they are going to be happy that they can get themselves onto defense following this, but they need at least one more of these remaining 2 attacking rounds. There is no two ways about it. Going in 5-1 at the half, that is going to be a massive blow for them.
You do worry if it comes down to the reverse here, where G2 probably came in thinking, well, we showed against Virtus Pro that we can do the attacking wonderfully well. We can demolish teams who sit there and play defensive. And maybe BDS has spent the night taking notes. Maybe they've looked and said the roam game is the way to go. One thing I caught earlier on, actually, that I forgot to mention at the time is look at what ban didn't make it through for BDS. Well, Maya's been their go-to ban all season long because they've said, you know what? We can play against this. We can deal with just having ADSs on side. It's not a problem. But we think other teams who rely on him as a crutch are going to find themselves struggling. Here they've let it go through and are fully using it themselves. So despite all this practice without Wamai, still thinking, you know, it's still a fantastic operator. We're still going to bring it. We still want that shield on side.
Citizen, he's got himself lodged into Piano now. He knows where Renshiro is, I'm pretty sure, on the red stairs. Starts to take some pot shots through the soft wall. Will not be successful at the moment. Renshiro just keeping himself back there. Citizen's going to throw another drone onto this. Now, I think he's just aware of Alem's presence as well, and this is what is making it difficult. This is why we said, Des, in the early rounds that the adaptation was needed to support Renshiro downstairs, and that is exactly what Alem's has just done. You saw there perfectly how Citizen was looking to aggress onto those red stairs, but was completely held at bay by the presence of Vigil. They didn't even have to take a gunfight, and they have wasted another 30 seconds downstairs. Citizen now very cautious about pushing forward and taking over these red stairs.
He knows. You just know that they're looking to aggress onto him. And equally, they know that Citizen's coming at them from downstairs. It's what he has done. All game long, has always found himself on the opposite floor to the site, looking to cause some trouble. Just doesn't want to get himself picked off here, understandably so. And he's also had a wonderful game himself so far. 2 opening kills onto Renshiro. Did die back in round number 3 against Alema Midtily in the opening duel. But outside of that, it's been good. Bride lay down, should have found that kill. But Kanto, the man seems to dodge bullets like he's in the Matrix. Once again, he's going to survive a gunfight and walk away, albeit on a slither of HP.
Great push from Kanto there, just going in with absolute confidence that he was going to win that gunfight, having to react very quickly to the fact that Bride was led prone, and now we can see some good south side control for G2. This round just took a swing in their favour. They've got Study. Virtue is now opening up those lines of sight into the site itself, and they can start to apply pressure to that south side of 90 corridor with thoughts of getting in behind the bar and getting the diffuser down now. We've got a man down. He will be collected.
Reset, I think.
Yeah, I think he's going to be brought back up. Now, Rafal is on low health, but manages to get himself... No, he doesn't. It's Shaiko who actually does the damage. Renshiro with a huge double, and right now BDS are collapsing beautifully. Uno finds himself in a 1 versus 3 in sight. Gets a second. 1 versus 2, but the time ticks down. There is nothing he can do. Time waits for no Mendez, and that clock ticks away. But G2 just held at bay there despite that south side control.
Same again. Honestly, it's been the same story for 4 rounds in a row that the clock has become the 6th man on the side of BDS, and they've closed things out in the dying seconds. You could even see where Shaiko was sat there. No one had a clue that he was sat there. Uno, I think, had the right idea in trying to rotate through Study up into Aviator and bring down the backs of BDS whilst they were putting all their attention towards that 90 corridor. But even with the opening kill onto Shaiko, you're down to 2 seconds left in the round. We all know how those tend to go. And you're living on a prayer a bit there, I think, if you're relying on yourselves as G2 to get inside of the site from 90 hallway, kill the 2 or 3 members that are there whilst Uno gets that flank off. A little too idyllic, I think. It's all about the time. I need to see them giving themselves an extra 10, 15 seconds on these executes, and I completely get it is not easy on a map like Villa, but that is being their biggest downfall in this half.
Certainly has, and right now we're going to be heading down to Kitchen and Dining for the final defensive round for BDS here, and Tell you what, if they come out of this 5-1, they will be laughing at that point. They know that that is a big coup against G2 here in map number 1, and I think a lot of people coming into this will have expected an early win potentially for G2 on this map to put them 2-0 overall on the series. But how about this? The potential of BDS coming in and leveling up that advantage immediately. And for the French team, what a dream start, Des. It's an absolutely perfect scenario.
It's one of the most beautiful things about Siege, I think, is that we look at BDS as a team and you go, right, played Villa twice all year in all competitions, ban it away permanently. Clearly they hate the map and they will never play it. They knew that if they made it to the grand final, they would have to play Villa, and G2 would be one of those teams they have to play against. G2 played it 4 times in the regular split. It is one of their go-to maps. They feel comfortable here. BDS quietly toiling away behind the scenes to get ready for this have shown that they know G2's game plan. They don't have to know Villa to the nth degree to be able to figure this one out. They just know it is a time-wasting game and they are playing it to perfection right now.
Ranchiro just feeding plenty of information back, picking up the G2 players on that heartbeat scanner, and see Shaiko just positioned ready there, holding himself an angle. Alems is upstairs once again now. There's a big question here of how will G2 deal with that. Alems has taken some damage early on, and we can see Uno has got himself positioned up there on the top floor, and G2 seem to be adapting and reacting to the damage that was done from that top floor last time around, and they know that they need to close down Alems, they need to shut him out, and they need to get the kill onto him. I'd like to see possibly Citizen supporting. There he is, south side, excellent. So we've got now Alems pinched in between Citizen and Uno. Uno is drawn in for him, but might just need to get in and support his man. Citizen is going in there for the gunfight, and they need to ensure this kill one way or another, whether it is a trade or not. Meanwhile, Renshiro and Virtue, they are off the board and find ourselves now 4 versus 4. 1 minute 30 to go.
Good trade by Pengu as well to come off the drones and help out Virtue there to secure the trade for them. Renshiro once again on the pulse, being one of the first to go down on this site is a massive risk. I like how with the variation of the Ana being on side here, they didn't have it last time on this site. Being able to bring this along, it's kind of your risk-free attempt at trying to find where Alem is going to be. He's already been killed in this case, but it does give you safer options in droning him out rather than worrying about sacrificing drone after drone after drone. Speaking of drones, only 3 left for G2. I always want you to keep an eye on this at home, viewers. Watch how many of those are remaining in the dying seconds, because that, I think, is what can sting G2 sometimes.
Now then, 50 seconds left to go. We can see Rafal just trying to keep himself mobile there. He has been picked up on that Jackal Inox scanner, and he's just having his location pinged around, so he's making sure that he remains mobile. But Brede will be mobile no more as Kanto Raketti shuts him down. 4 versus 2, 30 seconds left to go, and here comes the pressure. This is going to be an awful lot for the 2 remaining men of BDS to absorb. Kanto gets himself another. Shaiko, however, comes in with a kill on 2 Citizen. 1 versus 3 now. He's going to have to successfully complete a 1 versus 4, but that is 2 on the board. 2 to go. Tracked. 18 seconds. He is tracked. Information is being fed on his location. Shaiko keeps himself as mobile as he can. Pengu, with the clock in mind, knows he needs to get that diffuser down. Uno shuts down Shaiko as he goes in for the challenge. Brilliantly baited by Pengu on the Jackal, sticking that diffuser down and forcing Shaiko to react to it. Uno, perfect cover, great round from G2, and that is exactly what they needed.
Better to bring things out at 4 and 2. Given that was the offside as well, not a bad one to be winning. The other round they run was on Aviator and Games back in round number 1, where BDS didn't really turn up the heat enough on their own, but a really successful first half of BDS. Delighted to see that they can play into G2 here and deal, or at least exacerbate those weaknesses they've got, that focus around the intel and the droning. And also like how there, it's Shaiko in a 1 versus 4. You can never write him off. But when you're being trapped by Jackal, there is no funny business. You've got to stick on there and try and win your ones, pre-fire everything. Even that can be hard for the greatest in the game, or one of the greatest. Don't want to get Reddit angry at me for that one.
This one is building into an extremely exciting matchup already. I was a little bit concerned coming into Villa that we were going to see another G2 whitewash like we did against Virtus Pro yesterday, with the exception of a little fight back from the Russian team in the second half. But I just thought G2 might come in here dominant on Villa, and I'm so glad to see that BDS are putting up such a challenge. Now, we are going to see at least 11 7 rounds of this one, if not more. G2, even if they fight back with 5 successful defenses in a row now, it will still let us enjoy the majority of the rounds for this matchup. But I honestly think the BDS are going to have something to say on attack here, Des, as well. And I think they can at least match what G2 have done there. And overtime is a minimum for me here, probably.
I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping it does, because it's all a grand final deserves. But looking at the lineup coming out of the side of BDS here, 2 hard breaches on side, no Iana on side. Only a couple of changes, but significant enough that it will change how they play things. The one big operator that's missing for them that was critical to G2's attack was the one that Citizen was charging around on. It was the IQ. Otherwise, on the side of G2, nothing to shout home about. Very similar stuff to what we saw coming out of BDS. Admittedly, the Bandit upstairs for trophy and statuary was the go-to, whereas now we're looking towards the Oryx. Oryx, I believe, is the only time I've seen on this map, actually, a successful Oryx roam coming up through the study hatch, getting behind teams pushing from the south and gunning them down. I've seen it work once. It's not been the most successful use of the operator, I don't think, so I'm very curious to see how Kanto opts to play this.
I assume you're referring to the LATAM game where we had it used, Des, and it was used...
Of course I am, Ace.
It was used to absolutely phenomenal effect. From memory, I think it was Lukid. I'm going to say it was Lukid. I apologise if it wasn't.
I thought you'd be able to tell me the age of every single player by the number of days they've been alive, given when that happened.
Pretty sure it was Lukid who got himself up the study hatch, as you say. The push was coming into trophy statuary, and the Oryx was not shut down on the downstairs roam, and he just used those abilities to maximum effect, got himself up the hatch to just hit them on the flank, but then use the soft breach ability through the vault wall to change up his angle of attack and get himself a second kill. And he just showed perfectly why Oryx is such an exciting operator. And Kanto is the perfect sort of person to put him to use, but on a downstairs site, he's not going to have too much opportunity. Shaiko shutting down Citizen on the red stairs there, and that is a great start once again from BDS.
They were sat there like statues for about 30 seconds. Shaiko on the upstairs, Citizen on the downstairs, drones swarming all around them, but nothing really happening until Citizen blindly charges up and gets himself picked off. A little bit of a fall apart there, and a crucial loss for them. 4 versus 3 for BDS now as they find themselves a couple more. Looking pretty good as the starting point. They've got control of the south side of the map. You still got Pengu and Kanto looking to cause at least a little bit of trouble. But I just worry at this point that you're in this kind of man disadvantage. You've still got the Jackal on the side of BDS for tracking those that are trying to cause any kind of danger off site for the side of BDS. This looks pretty safe, but I'm always keeping a very close eye on that timer.
40 seconds left to go, and we can see that the peak is potentially going to come into Pengu here, but he is lined up, ADS and ready, and BDS certainly think better of that one and back away, but there could be a big moment for Pengu here. I don't know if he's got that barricade prepped and ready for a jump out potentially, but the option is there, and he could well hit a big flank onto a couple of the BDS players here now. Shaiko is going to find him. I don't think he sends the drone in close enough, and he's not going to be able to move in and make that challenge. Virtue gets Renshiro, 3 versus 3. Pengu moves back into sight onto Alems. Breeder's getting the diffuser down right now. Shaiko fighting hard. He moves in and gets a huge kill. Last one comes in. 4K for Shaiko, and he is turning up when BDS need him most, covering the plant and just taking full advantage of the chaos that we saw inside of sight there. Smokes everywhere, vision at a minimum, and Shaiko fully taking advantage of it.
Oh, it's another reason why I love Siege. Wonderful example of how a second or two can make or break a round. Imagine if Pengu had peeled away from playing on the window and stepped in towards where Shaiko was pushing in from. There was 2 of them in the room as well. He found one, but Shaiko was already in the smoke. And those smokes led to a little bit of chaos. All the lines of sight were broken. No one was quite sure where who was. And I thought for a second, Shaiko, I believe, was almost looking to reload as well after he'd taken the 3rd kill. Didn't realize the final member was going to be stood right in front of him, and somehow manages to find that 4K to close out the round. Pasha was the player I was shouting out about a lot yesterday, saying his big rounds of getting 3Ks, 4Ks, dragging Virtus Pro through it, whether they liked it or not. Shaiko's gone and done just that in this round. We could be looking at 4 and 3. Instead, it's 5 and 2, and BDS are 2 rounds away from winning the first map against G2, a map that they have banned consistently all year long. That
Hibana ban certainly doesn't look to be bothering Shaiko too much right now, does it? Absolutely huge from him there to close that round out. And as you said, Des, that one just swung on a dime. It looked like it was poised for G2, and then Up pops Shaiko. Huge 4K from him. Absolutely massive players there. Coming in and just decimating the G2 lineup in the final seconds there. And that puts BDS onto 5-2 and just 2 rounds away from taking the first map here on Villa and leveling things out, completely destroying that map advantage that G2 came in with. And there couldn't really be a worse situation for G2 than losing that advantage immediately. They will have been so keen to get themselves this first map on the board, especially coming into Villa. But right now, BDS, they are fighting. And as I said, we've seen them grow into this major so far. We've seen them improve match after match after match. And we were always going to see a better BDS lineup than we did in that first round against G2.
However, this is how the first half played out. G2 won round number 1. BDS had just won round number 7, the first of the half for themselves. So if this next round goes the way of BDS, absolutely. Panic stations are on. G2 are in dire straits. If they collect it, you might see it carry on down the sort of path that we saw in the first half, where BDS then went on to take 4 rounds. Rounds 2 to 5 were theirs. They put them on the scoreboard. That would force us up to overtime potentially, which would be ridiculously exciting. But let's see whether or not Shaiko can do it once more, tear G2 apart, and break that narrative open.
Pressure being applied on the trophy statuary side here, so there is going to be some movement from that north side. We can see Ranshiro, Rafal, Breeder, Shaiko all lining up there. The question is, where does the 5th man go? Where does the rest of that pressure get applied? Alems currently is looking downstairs. I think he's all the way down on the basement level. Yes, he is, just making sure that that roam game has been cleared out. He will find some footprints, and it looks like he's just following them along at the minute rather than doing the scan. Now, you've always got to be careful on the Jackal scanning, because as soon as you do that, you give the defender some information. You know that then Jackal is somewhere that you have been. So if you've only moved from point A to point B without too much variation in between in a straight line, for example, you know exactly where that push is going to come from. Now, he does pick up the scan eventually onto the stairs and gets shut down by Cantor Ricchetti. Great communication there from the smoke, just shouting out, I've been tracked, this is where I've been, and allowing Cantor to get in there and to challenge. It was actually Uno, who gave that information. Shaiko, however, could pick himself up a double here. Rafal it will be who beats him to the punch, though. Getting Uno and Cantor wiped off the board on those south stairs, and G2 once again just being completely caught unawares.
BDS just getting a pincer on the go there. You had Shaiko holding the top of red stairs, and then you had Rafal holding the cross down to the bottom of red stairs. There was no way they walked away alive there unless they pre-fired someone, or if there was some kind of support coming from another direction. Really well played by BDS. It puts them in a 4 versus 3, but 10 seconds on the clock. I always worry when it comes down to the execute. Let's see if they can keep them away from sight. Virtue sure can. 2 kills for himself. Pengu's holding down south. Shotgun's out. Collects the final down. That should be the end of it. There we go. G2 taking the round and almost doling a little bit of medicine back against BDS and saying, hey, guess what? The clock can be our friend too.
G2 getting themselves back into this matchup nicely there with their first successful defending round on Aviator Games. It is a site that you would expect them to come out of victorious, and they are heading now to another in trophy statuary. If they can find themselves a successful defense once again up here on the top floor, then they put themselves within touching distance of BDS. And I tell you what, if this matchup goes 5-5, you better get a coin out ready, Des, because that is exactly how, and the only way we're going to be able to predict who comes away with the first map.
First time we've seen an Echo being brought out in place of a Bandit. Quite a surprise. We've seen both teams employing this for the C4, the Echo a little bit of a new one. And understandably, when we aren't seeing an IQ being brought along by the attackers, it makes total sense. They can't easily destroy it. Same with the Valkyrie. It's a case of using your eyes, maybe using your ears a little bit to try and catch those yokais. One of the really cute things I've seen a few teams doing throughout this tournament, to be fair, is keeping the Echoes off the wall and instead on the floor. And I imagine many of you are thinking, why the bloody hell would you do that? It's noisy, it's visible, it's at their normal eye level. Like, what good is that going to do you? Quite a few teams, especially on things like Consulate, have played with it around the bomb chassis. Now, normally when there's an IQ, it's been the most effective, because although you can see it on the scanner, you can't easily destroy it. It's just been interesting how teams have been using that as more of a mobile jump up, shoot someone or blast them with the Echo, then drop back down and run away somewhere, or even keep it there and try and do it again a few seconds later. So I'm keen to see what impact that can have. I think for Uno, this could be a round-winning pick, given how close all of these rounds have come down to in the dying seconds. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Yokai upsetting BDS.
As you say, the clock has been the biggest factor so far, realistically, whether that be that rounds have been won based on that timer, or whether it has been that attacking teams have just had to take action because the time is ticking away, when maybe they weren't quite prepared for it. Now we can see the first of those Yokais being hidden away in the rafters. Citizen coming in with a huge opening kill onto Renshiro there, once again winning out on that entry battle, and that is something that G2 really needed right now, was to come into this round strong. So far we are reasonably even on the entry stakes, but over the last couple of rounds G2 have just found themselves an advantage with those big opening plays coming in from Citizen. Once again onto Alems this time, shutting down the 90 corridor. Shaiko will find his partner in crime, Kanto Rakete, and that will bring it back a little bit. We are now 4 versus 3, but still advantage G2.
Small advantage, admittedly. I mean, this is the problem, is you feel you've maybe got yourself something going when Citizen finds 2 kills at the start of a round, but then you can just find players like Shaiko who step up, pick up 2 or 3 kills for themselves in the round. Is back even, if not swung into BDS's favor. They've got control of the south now. You've seen Citizen peel away a little bit. Doesn't want to hang around for too long where he isn't welcome. Back on the site does mean there's about 90 seconds here and the site execute can begin to take shape. However, look at that Yokai drawn on the ceiling once more. Uno, all he's got to do here is sit and play the patience game. Make the calls, blast them out, and call for your teammates to ruin him once he steps into the site.
Uno is a big problem for BDS here right now, as you say. Just hiding himself away in that corner, keeping himself active on the Yokai drones. Easily challenged vertically, but BDS need to find exactly where he is and get into position to do that, and time is ticking away. Uno, the longer he remains in this round, the more powerful and potentially influential he becomes. Now we have Shaiko moving in on the Ash. He's just looking left, right, centre. Hyper movement at the moment, just trying to find anything that he can. He's going to take out that deployable shield. No. I think he does get it down. I wasn't sure if he'd maybe been caught out by an ADS there. I think, yep, the Wamai gadget has done its job. Virtue just directly benefiting from that magnet system, and it will keep the deployable shield in play for the time being. And Virtue, he's going to hold that angle for a good while yet.
I think they're out of options now as well. No grenades left, no nothing. They can't destroy the shield, and you've still got to deal with the Yokais. You can see one being moved here, I believe, towards Trophy or towards Statuary, because they're aware that there might be an execute coming through there, given the focus that has gone in. And sure enough, Bride is in. Rafale's inside of Massa. They've got the angles they need, but they've got to be so careful of what happens next. The Yokai's up on the ceiling. There's one behind the shield, but they still managed to get away with it, and the plant goes down. How have they managed to get away with this one? Shaiko finds a second kill. There's one now inside of Massa because they've taken out Rafale. They've got to deal with these multiple angles, and it's the flank that needs to come through. You can see Uno on the downstairs needs to head his way towards red stairs, I felt, but BDS have got a bit of a hold on the go here. Bride and Shaiko, the 2 players we touched on a few times, not the best in KD. Now Pengu's going to try and stick. Can they spray this out from the below? Can they contest in close range? He tries to go for it. Uno wins 1, wins 2. It is massive as a player that we don't normally see stepping up on the KD stats. Those are 2 of the most critical kills he will find in this whole final.
Uno takes 2 there to close out the round as Pengu with the heads-up play getting onto the disable, and it was perfect cover coming in from Uno there exactly when G2 needed it. That was a massive round for them to get on the board. Having the diffuser go down and be activated, and then managing to get that retake in the post plant, especially against 2 of the hottest players from BDS right now. Massive, massive plays from Uno, and that is what G2 needed from him. Hero play, stepping into the breach. We can see, look at Shaiko, 14 kills there. He's having a real storm so far. He's on an absolute tear today, Des.
No, mate, no. He's having a Shaiko day. This is a normal day in the office for him. Recently, he stepped in and been a little bit shaky. He's got a headache, hasn't woke up feeling too good. But today, right side of the bed, add a glass of water, he's good to go. He's back to his old self, and that is wonderful to see.
G2 heading back down to Dining Kitchen then, having won on Aviator Games and Trophy. Now, we saw this in round 7, and BDS came out successful. They got a nice opening kill from Shaiko onto Citizen, and the round just followed like dominoes from there effectively, and they really got great control over the site. If you remember, it was that Shaiko quad kill that came in. It was just smokes rained out, and whilst it felt like G2 had sort of won the mid-round battle and got themselves into that sort of solid position coming into the last 15-20 seconds. The chaos that BDS managed to create, inside of the site, with 2 smoke canisters just coming out, popping those smokes, and then getting the diffuser down. The plant was going on, and it just allowed Shaiko to move into the middle of that maelstrom and just take kills left, right, and center and do exactly what he does best. And that's something that G2 need to deal with. They need to be getting that utility off the board. They need to be baiting it out. They can't allow that sort of chaos to reign supreme in the last few seconds of a round.
Critical change this round. I've been speaking about IQ an awful lot in this game. Rafal switching over to bring that one out, just in case I think an Echo is going to appear once again. Evidently has not, but you still got to deal with all these other gadgets. It could be an approach similar to what we saw coming out of Citizen again. Get control of the top floor, shoot out the ADSs, shoot out the bandit batteries, shoot out the jammers from above. That's going to require dancing around those 3 C4s that are on the side of G2. My eyes are on Virtue here. I've touched on him already as being the top-rated player for G2 consistently lately. It's going to become all down to those C4s, to the intel that he's passing. If they can catch Rafal before he gets to work on the gadgets, that could be massive for them, because you might just find BDS get hung up trying to execute into the site because of the lack of intel, because of the denial, because of everything else working against them.
Virtue sees Renshiro head into the bathroom. There is a nitro attempt, but Renshiro moves far too quickly. He is fleet of foot and gets himself out of there into Astronomy to start opening up some vertical angles. Now, this isn't something that we've seen too much, especially from the attacking side of G2. They largely forego the top floor hold when attacking onto this site, but BDS, they have got players in there quickly. They have got breaching charges aplenty, and they are opening up vertical angles quickly here. We're only just into the second half of the round, and we can see that the pressure will start to mount inside of sight here. Now, Kanto, he's got himself up through the hatch and just alerts the presence, but takes a great headshot onto a lens. I was just waiting to see how that plays out. Huge second onto Shaiko, drops back down. His job is done, and he moves himself away to safety. Massive play from the Oryx.
Amazing. This is what everyone thought when we saw Oryx, we saw his kit. Man, he could get up hatches, he can cause massive spoilers, and the thing is, they were slightly aware that he was there. You could see the caution being shown, but he wins the gunfights. He gives them something else to think about, and now BDS have been reset back slightly. They've got to be so wary that Kanto might come flanking up late round. They can't afford to ignore what's going on around them anymore, and this can make this round for them incredibly difficult to close out, not the least because they're in a 2 versus 5, but because of the damage dealt by Kanto.
Renshiro and Rafal, a massive amount of work to be done by these two now. Diffuser cold on the ground, and they're just trying to pick up any frags that they can at this point, but with 12 seconds left to go, they are likely to be impactless. Pengu will take down Rafal. Renshiro puts big shots in through the floorboard, but can't find himself a kill, and with time ticking away, that is going to be round 10 going to G2, and we find ourselves now 5-all squared up, and BDS, they've thrown away a 5-2 lead here, and with the momentum solidly in the favour of G2 right now. 3 rounds on the bounce, a complete defensive rotation. You can see how they might just grab this one from the jaws of defeat now, Des.
What did you say about if it got to 5-5 earlier on, Tim? You said to grab a pretty penny and give it a flip, because it is so difficult to know which way these last 2 rounds are going to go. We are following the same theme that we saw back in the first half. G2 taking the 1st and 6th round. It's shaping up to look the same for BDS here. I'm not convinced that this party is over yet. I'm sure they can get one of these 2 rounds coming out, but I think the fear for them is still that Echo was a problem. We needed the IQ, but we still got to bring other things with us, and it looks like here they're even afraid of the Oryx. Nomad being brought along for the first time just to make sure he can't do the same kind of damage again. Not that it matters, because G2 once more are a step ahead. They've changed compositions. They're now going more towards the denial focus again. Goya on side alongside the clash.
Well, we asked to see every single round that we could here, Des. Everybody at home wanted to see every single round that we could between these 2 behemoths of the Siege world, and that is exactly what they are throwing down for us right now. We are guaranteed all 12 in the first map of Villa. You can see there the nice little round breakdown. Thank you very much, production, and a perfect opportunity, Des, to give a big shout out to the production team that have worked so tirelessly over this weekend. It's you know, such an unsung hero of a job sometimes, you know, when everything goes right and everything's smooth and those beautiful graphics and information are all there and in play for us. It's sort of the expectation, but they work extremely hard behind the scenes to make sure everything goes as smoothly as it can and to bring us all this fantastic action, and deserve a big thank you from both Des and I.
And from the rest of the team as well, let's not forget as well, they make us look good. It's definitely not us, it's all the work they do, the tuning of the voices, the action that we get to see. Of course, the Observer's also doing a wonderful job. We'll change to a nice story about those guys later on, I'm sure. Drone work coming out heavy from BDS at the start. North take going to be the focus, and I think Kanto thinking it's a little bit hot right now. I've got lots of drones around me, a lot of focus coming in. I'm a peel back, and I'll leave the one with the shield for a face to hold things down. That is Uno holding up inside a 90 corridor just to help feed some information back over, because he isn't going to be brought down early. The one thing I want him to be mindful of is the 90 window. If someone comes up behind him on the rappel, this could be a massive spoiler for them. You have got Citizen holding nearby to hold that back angle, so G2, they've got everything covered here. They're being mindful. They're making sure they don't get caught out. The angles that Citizen holding here, blocked by that pillar. It should be pretty safe to back away when the heat gets a little bit too hot.
This is something that we saw from G2 yesterday when they really needed rounds, was Uno coming in on the clash and just shutting the game down for them. And right now, BDS, they need to find an answer to this clash, and they need to find it quickly. We can see the utility just getting caught up in the magnets there, but that is perfect for Shaiko, allowing him to use that breaching charge onto the deployable shield and just get some better access to site for later in the round. But if the intention is for them to push solely through that door, I've already discussed the potential problems with that. It is a massive funnel, and we can see the Nitro come out, I imagine, from Citizen on the Goyo there, but it will not be successful, will not connect or do any damage whatsoever. But right now, BDS, time is ticking away. You need to find an answer.
Ooh, good night.
Fall shuts down Kanto Raketti on the stairs, and that's going to be the beginning of an answer at least, but it does not solve the problem of the shield that is in front of them. It does not solve the problem that is Uno in 90 corridor.
They got no problem doing some work on the floor, mind you, even trying to spray up to catch him out. That's going to force them back and into sight. It took a long time to break this apart. Yes, they've lost Kanto, but 2 minutes it has taken for BDS to get control of this 90 corridor as well as Aviator door. And they've still got to deal with the clash. They've still got to deal with the potential time wasting. But I think 30 seconds can be enough. The issue is you've got to face off against things like the smoke canisters that are now being deployed. This could be an all or nothing for BDS. G2 once again doling the medicine back out to BDS.
Pengu gets it down onto Rafal, finishes things off, but Citizen is down himself inside. Pengu going huge here, kill onto Shaiko. Virtue gets one onto Alems, and this is going all over to G2. Virtue stepping up just like he did yesterday, just like he did the day before to get the kills when they really counter, and Shiro shuts down Uno, but finds himself still 1 versus 3 and shut down there on the study door by who else? Virtue once again, and by virtue of that fact, G2 now find themselves on map point here in the first map of the day of the EU Major. Villa could well go to be the second, following up onto that map advantage that they began with.
Oh boy, they're at that point where it looked like BDS might be the team to take Villa away from G2. Never words I thought I would say in a million lifetimes, but it's starting to feel like G2 might have just snagged it back over to their side. And whilst they're leaving BDS to play the guessing game, is it Echo? Nomad, what do we bring along here? What's the expectation? Did they change away from the Nomad and look to bring in something else? No, they don't. Looks like Pengu and G2 sticking by the Clash as we go towards Trophy and Statuary. G2 actually a team that popularized using Clash on this site. Remember when Fabian used to be on the team, they'd always stick him inside of Astronomy and play behind the Clash shield. It just made it impossible to push through Bathroom comfortably. Hard to get through the window, hard to get up the stairs. You were essentially forced to go through Master only, or you come from the south. So it's almost like cutting off one of 3 options for the side of BDS, or at least saying if you do want to come down this path, it's going to take a while. Needs retarmacking, it's looking a little bit rough and a bit untidy. If you want to put the effort in, go for it. But just like in that last round, timing was not on BDS's side. I don't suspect it will be in this round either.
Oh, it's a nightmare of a path, Des. There's potholes left, right, and centre. BDS have got to be careful. They're going to go over on their ankle if they're not careful.
Pop a tire if you're not careful.
Oh, absolute nightmare. And right now, it's no surprise to see that clash being brought along again. Just so effective at wasting time there. And ultimately, what you saw towards the end of that round, Pengu picking up that big double from South Corridor. Now, BDS, they seem to forget about Pengu there. He got the first onto Rafal, I think it was, then popped out into the corridor and took Shaiko. And I think part of the reason that they sort of forgot about that location and the potential for having Pengu in there on the smoke was the fact that there'd been so much focus towards Uno and Citizen on that Goyo Clash combo in the corridor that by the time they'd moved back inside, the focus was still on them. Where's the Clash? Where is the Clash? Ooh. Where's that shield? And then they were able to get shut down by Pengu, and right now Kanto just working in perfect partnership with that shield of Pengu and will get the opener onto Shaiko, and this one looks to be going right in the favour of G2.
That was very aggressive from Shaiko. You could tell with the way he peeked around the corner, not quite sure where to look, where the operator behind Clash was going to be. So was hoping and relying on that pure intuition, that reaction time that he's got to pick up the kill. But sadly, you're stacked up against Kanto. We all know what Kanto is capable of. You're never going to have a pretty time. 60 seconds in, G2 have found the opening kill. They've wasted quite a bit of time here on the south side by holding so aggressively against Study Door. They've now finally peeled back. Very happy with the war chest they have accumulated here. One dead body and 75 seconds wasted.
Great defense coming out from G2 here. As you say, getting that up-in-your-face aggressive stance to begin with, picking up Shaiko, the absolute talisman player of this BDS side so far here on Villa. He's had an absolute multitude of kills, so shutting him down is a huge start. Now we can see Renshiro looking to move in and challenge that Clash, but he's going to have a tough day of it, especially with the deployable shield still in play as well. He's going to look to clear out that utility or potentially just to move the shield from the face of Clash, but all Pengu's going to do at that point is just dip in behind that deployable shield. This is perfect for him, so getting up, getting aggressive on that south side and then just dropping back. They've tempered that aggression and they've timed it perfectly. The retreat absolutely to the second here when they needed it.
Roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. First on Study Door, now sitting back towards Statuary Door behind a deployable shield. Had to throw a flashbang in there to make sure there was no ADSs or magnets lurking nearby. Answer was there was not, so they were safe to then remove the shield. But it's only another minute wasted. 40 seconds left. Look at last round. We got to this point, and BDS were only just starting to square up to go for an execute. It's going to feel the same here. You still got to deal with smokes coming out. Does put one through the head of Citizen, so it's a 4 versus 4. But all the right delay tools are still here, Ace. I worry if they have enough time to make this happen.
Out comes the Toxic Babe canister. Pengu using the electricity of Clash's shield just to slow down the attack as much as possible. Kanto gets a kill onto Rafal. Second on the round, but Virtual will be shut down on the challenge, and these are trading back and forward at the minute. Alems is trying to get in behind the Clash. He does get in behind the smoke. They're completely unaware of his presence. He goes for the challenge. Huge play from Alems coming out there with a big double. Breeder gets the diffuser down, and right now it is all down to Kanto. Gets himself the third on the round. He is on for the ace here. 1 versus 2 as Alems takes out the downed Pengu. Kanto, he's got to make a move. Shut down by Alems, who has the counter ace. There's
unbelievable that he gets the flank through a bit of a slip of communication there, I worry, coming out of G2. Finds one in the back of Trophy, still manages to run his way through and pick up a second freely at the top side of Statuary. Bit of a mistake coming out of G2 there. Didn't really know how to react, it seems. And either way, it was Kanto or Alem finding the ace. It was Alem ultimately who takes it. 6 and 6. We said 2 rounds ago, if not about 10 rounds ago, if it got to 5 and 5, flip a coin, and you're probably guaranteed to find yourself going to overtime. We have landed. It's G2 starting on the defense. We've seen a defender-leaning setup so far. 4 and 2 to both teams. I don't know which way this is going to go now. You'd say G2 on the fact they start in defense, but again, I just don't know.
We flipped the coin, Des, and the coin landed on its edge. And here we are, G2 continuing the good momentum that they've just built on the defense there. So right now, I do sort of still feel that there is an advantage for them. We saw them with a very good defense of Aviator games previously. Now, interestingly, this time, Uno has not brought along the Clash, and I felt that was quite an integral part of the defense last time around. Just really drawing the eye, drawing the focus of BDS and giving some other operators like Pengu on the smoke the space that he needed to get in and get those kills to shut down that defense. But they are mixing things up, and I like that as well. Let's be unpredictable. Don't allow BDS to know what is coming. Always keep them on the back foot at least. Don't allow them to come in with an initiative, knowing exactly what you're going to do now. Plenty of attention being paid to the red stairs there. Got Uno just On the snake,
Snaking
the
his
belly
way down.
crawl, just moving down those stairs. We were still in the prep phase. I'm not sure what sound he was worried about, but he's got himself hidden away there. And just keep your eye on Uno, because I feel like he could have a big impact on this round if BDS don't close him down.
My big impact player. I love talking about the operator selection. For the first time on this map, despite being banned, we're seeing a Capitao being brought out by LM. Now, given how it's shaped up so far for BDS, they have really struggled to execute. They've been caught by roadblocks. They've been blocked by shields. The clash has always got in their way. Clearly, they're thinking here, look, if we can force them out with these firebolts, if we can get ourselves in with a smoke plant, we've seen Jackal used an awful lot by both teams for that exact reason, to smoke off key locations. They get both of those things with the Capitao. So I'm keen to see what he can deliver in this round. Otherwise, things are looking very samey for BDS. 2 hard breaches, 1 set of nades, of course, coming out. Then the Ash and the Zofia for the soft destruction.
In comes Olems to the astronomy side, and he is supported by Breedy at the moment. Out go the drones for that further information. We've got Kanto and Uno still around those red stairs, and you can see exactly what they're trying to achieve here. They're just trying to cut that map in half between the north and south and prevent BDS from moving across, but there is no preventing Shaiko opening up the round with a kill onto Virtue. Struggled the last couple, but gets himself firing now. Low health, does take some damage along with it, but he won't mind that whatsoever. Taking the Wamai off the board, and the magnet gadgets with it could be crucial in the late round here.
Welcome to Dark Souls. Siege Edition is the best way to think of it for Shaiko. 1 shot and he is out. He gets no second opportunities, but we know how good he is at hitting those first critical shots. We'll see how much more damage he can do. Once again, it's coming down to a time-wasting affair for G2. You can see them all focused around the landing area at the top of red stairs. C4's playing from below, looking to cause some trouble, but they're getting picked off here one by one. BDS stepping through, Virtue and Kanto down. That's the Jaeger and the Wamai both gone. How much more time can they hold back for? And when do BDS pull the trigger? We're in that final 60 seconds. They've got the Capitao to go for the execute, but they're still going to get into a spot to go for a setup. Shaiko, turns out he can't win. Down he goes. Not quite out just yet. So there is time for his teammates to recover him.
Well-timed peek by Pengu. Uno's going to look to move up those stairs. And as I said, from this position on red stairs, it's about cutting that map in half. He will take big shots, though, and Alems will gut the Goyo and now move into a 2 versus 5 for G2. They are having no joy here. Shaiko was downed earlier, but then killed. Huge play from Citizen. Gets himself 2, but it won't be enough as Ranchiro and Breedy storm into sight, take the final kills, and BDS, they get themselves the advantage once again here in overtime, and this one could well be going all the way to 15.
Oh, the demons of the dying seconds of a round. Both of these teams, it coming down to the final 10, 15 seconds, and then everything lights up. I don't envy Easy having to try and catch all these fights, because they are happening all over the map, and it is always an explosive conclusion to them. That's the spot Citizen was sat in there, the back corner with an MPX of all guns, and still finds 2. Isn't quite enough to close it out. All of G2 were focused on what was going on at the top of red stairs, and that enabled the final member to slip in from study and get that closing kill. Unfortunate, but that's the big round for BDS. They have just won the attacking round in overtime. If they can now win this defensive round, the map is theirs, and this whole best of 5 is up in the air, and I will have no idea which way it should go from there.
I don't know about you, Des, but I'm starting to really pick up a bad case of the shakes right now. I have got a tremble just watching this game, because it is becoming so edge of your seat, so exciting right now, and there is just absolutely nothing between these two teams, and it's not just about this map here on Villa, it is about the entire matchup. What are we going to see going forward from here? We've got Oregon up next. We haven't seen G2 there. Do they come out and surprise us the same way that BDS have surprised us here on Villa? It is going to be mouth-watering. This is lip-smacking, Des.
You know what else is? Looking at the lineup coming out of G2, that is unconventional. Normally, you're only afforded 1 or 2 of these to come along. You got the IQ, the Capitao, and the Iana all coming out here. 4 grenades on side, as well as the execution tool that we saw BDS coming out with. It didn't get to use it. You got picked off while trying to trade onto, I believe it was Uno at the top of red stairs, but it was more the fact that it's there. They have those options available to them. My only concern, I think, is the limited number of flashbangs they've got here. There's a lot to get through in terms of the ADSs and the magnets coming out of the Wamai. They're going to struggle, I think, to slip those fire bolts or the smoke bolts through into the right location before they go for an execute. So keep a close eye on that in this round. How do they deal with this? Where have BDS set up with that utility? Because that could be a round definer.
Big utility battle. Lems just shutting down the first of those Iana drones, and it was something that made it a little bit easier to deal with the Vigil for G2 previously, but deal with him they must. Renshiro playing down there as well. Nitro in hand on the Valkyrie, and this is something that BDS have seen mixed results with so far. Initially, it was very successful having the two-man roam downstairs after they got shut down in round number 1. Round 2, they had an absolute field day. But then beyond that, G2, they responded well to it, and they managed to shut them down and get the kills onto players like Alems on the Vigil. But right now, Kanto needs to be careful. He has been the Nitro magnet so far, taking a number of deaths from those vertical explosives, and he's got Renshiro underneath him at the minute, and if Alems hears him moving around there, it was very close, but Renshiro will be unsuccessful this time around now. I think Kanto's just got a spot onto Alems there. He will do some damage. No, it's through onto Renshiro. So that is some HP off the board for BDS. But G2, you still need to deal with this lower floor roam.
Still got to deal with all the utility that's sat down this corridor as well. 2 flashbangs expended, so the shield should be removed for free on 90. There we go. With that cleared out, they can start pushing down there, but that is all of those 3 flashbangs now gone from the Ash. So if there are a couple of ADSs or whatever stacked up inside of the right location, this could get very, very tough. There is one at the bottom of the south stairs, or main stairs, just lurking at the top behind the shield. No one currently playing on it, though, for the side of the defense. In fact, I lied. There he is. Renshiro and Alem are both down towards the south. Probably looking to try and contest onto Kanto as he pushes his way down 90.
Great rotation from them exactly at the right time. BDS, 45 seconds left to go,
Smokes.
and they don't need pressure coming in from that south side. We can see that the push is likely to come through here. Uno just clearing out that utility. Virtue diffuser in hand. Smoke canister baited out, but will not be able to close the round out like that. We can see Capitao there. Pengu doing big work just to shut off that south side with those asphyxiation bolts, but he will be challenged very soon as the fire wears off. Renshiro just forced back. Further shots come in. How does he not go down there? Shaiko and Rafal get themselves 2. 3 versus 3 as Virtue pushes in for a trade. Right now, Kanto shuts down Brede, and this all looks to be going in the favour of G2 as a second for Kanto. Citizen gets in on the game, and that is going to be 15 rounds for us, Des.
It begins. We spoke about our time in the UK scene and what that did to us. I believe the first time we ever cast together, 45 rounds. It seems to follow us. I'm hoping this one goes even beyond that, because this is the only opportunity we have for it to go to 60 rounds. That would be unbelievable. And would I wager somewhat unprecedented? It's a very high hope, ladies and gents, but it's one we can all dream of. Trophy and statuary, where we're going to see G2 put down their defense for the final round of Villa. I still can't believe it's come to G2, 7 rounds. BDS, 7 rounds. Nothing I would have predicted at the start of the day, but it comes down to this. And yet more changes being made. Kanto coming out with the castle. What is it with these teams and bringing out some new things in overtime? It was the Capitao back in round 13. Last round, it was the very wild setup of the IQ, the Capitao, and the Iana all together. This time round for G2, why not a bit of castle?
It's a roll of the dice, isn't it? Just changing up your strategy at the last second, and it's nothing too unusual. We do see the castle used on trophy statuary quite often. We've seen the right-hand side of those 2 sort of single interior windows, we'll call them. That's been castled off, and it just allows a rotation to be played between the bomb site and into master. The really important thing, though, is that you hold on to that location. You need to hold on to master as tight as you can, because you don't want to give the attackers that option to use that rotation against you. So something that the defenders need to be particularly careful of there.
And there is the ADS next to the bed as well, so it won't be so easy for range for the Ash or the Sophia to go, oh, I'll just pop it, no problem. You do have to find a way to get inside here, but the one thing that really digs out to me in this round is the time wasting. It's what we've seen all map long. How much time can we waste from BDS? How much can we make them struggle? You've got Citizen playing down to the south. Kanto's down there as well. You've got Pengu holding inside of the closet with everything else behind him to fall back to inside Master itself. They're just trying to waste time, and I completely understand why, given that BDS and G2, to be fair, have really struggled when it comes down to the final 10 to 15 seconds to close things out. It becomes a bit of a frag fest between the 2 teams.
Utility slowly being removed by BDS here. Shaiko applying pressure to the bathroom window. Pengu is going to remain in there for as long as possible. Out goes the first of those Toxic Babe canisters very early in the round there, but he is trying to serve a specific purpose, and that is to keep those attackers out of Master Bedroom and Master Closet for as long as possible. Now, Virtue, Nitro in hand. Alems is on the rappel, but not close enough at the moment. You can just see great view there from the observer. Thank you very much, Easy. Alems just getting himself off the rappel. He knows that there was a risk there. Virtue puts it onto the window frame, but Alems, he's running himself away to safety, and that's going to be Utility off the board for G2 once again. And right now, BDS, they're doing a great job of just being a utility sink at the minute, just baiting out these Nitros, Toxic Babe canisters, and just preventing those being active in the late round.
It's all about the time waste again. Keep on talking about it. They have got themselves inside at this point, so they can look to start going for a push forwards. Even with the ADS is still sat behind them, despite this hold coming in inside of Master, they're in a spot where with the breach open, they get a real nice long angle through the bomb chassis. Someone else trying to catch them out. Got to be very mindful of that. We're down to those final 60 seconds. Barely a round has gone by in this game. I count 2, where the opening kill came within the first 2 minutes. Sorry, didn't come within the first 2 minutes. Instead, it was in the final 60 seconds. This has been one of the slower, most patient rounds we've seen between these teams so far.
Nothing unusual when you come into such a crucial round. Each team not wanting to lose it just as much as they want to win it, and you get this really difficult balance of aggression. Renshiro coming in and opening things up with a headshot onto Uno. That's going to be the Wamai gone, and that leaves us now 5 versus 4. Challenges need to be made from G2. Kanto will do that, but shut down by Shaiko on the trade, and we find ourselves with Brede down, Diffuser cold on the ground. 3 versus 3, 27 seconds left to go. There is work to be done for BDS here. They need to recover it. Virtue, Citizen going big exactly when G2 need them. Can they close this out? It is now 3 versus 1. G2 take it. They are going to go 2 maps into the lead with managing to claw back a hard-fought fixture on Villa.
Unbelievable that it takes 15 rounds on Villa to determine who takes the lead. Or would have been a draw, of course, if BDS had swung back into it. But G2 and 0 is where they sit. 1 more map and they are the major champions. But I really feel you cannot write BDS off. Look at that from Shaiko. 17 kills, back in old form. But on the other side for G2, 4 players at 12 kills plus. Unbelievable performance. A team of fraggers, absolutely. But we saw a lot of technical